Hey YouTube, welcome back to our channel. My name is Elena.
And I'm Bjorn.
And this is Vikings React, where we take a look at some of your favorite Viking TV shows and discuss their historical accuracies.
We're back to Vikings, Season 6, Episode 6. Oh yeah, back into this.
Yep. Alright, what's gonna happen?
There's still a fourth. There's 5 now. We've only seen, that's the third person we've seen vote.
Yep.
Someone's cheating.
My vote goes to King Harold.
As it should.
For King Harold.
You're so intentional with it. I love
But
it.
you're not king! Yeah.
King Harold.
Okay. We're getting there. We're gaining.
We'll see. Wow. She looks like a WoW character. About to just drop the hottest punk rock album.
Her female army. Okay, let's chat about that.
She's about to drop the hottest pop punk album of 1063.
Okay, let's chat about women warriors. This has been a pretty prominent thing throughout the show. Obviously, Lagertha's character was built on a female shield maiden, warrior persona.
The character Lagertha is not like made up by Michael Hirst or anything. It was
Right.
She was featured in like Ragnar Saga, but as far as we know, she herself was not a historical figure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so here's the personification of that like mentality of what a shield maiden would be. Basically, She just represents that.
Yeah.
As far as we can tell, historically speaking.
Now, as to the rest of the female warriors, and the fact that throughout the series she's had troves of women at her back. Historically speaking, when you look back at the Viking Age, that wouldn't have happened. Because as much as, we like to tout women power nowadays, it is very much a modern thing. And back in those days, when you had a village of people and you had to go to battle, you're not going to send your women into battle because you need them to give birth to the children and to raise those children. There were very much those female roles that women took on because biologically, women are the ones that give birth and, raise the kids.
Yeah, and it's weird to say that now because it's such like a medieval concept, but we're talking about the medieval times, so
Yeah.
it's the thing. And that's not necessarily to say that it was 100% black and white. No women fought, only men, and there were like these very two staunch ideals. Because we've already talked about how sometimes, we've already talked a little bit about like social taboos and things like that. But I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule. We do know that there were some women who fought. There were some women who were featured in battle, in warfare. The main thing is the Birker grave find, the Birker woman that was found, who's been analyzed 100 times over since she was discovered in the late 1800s, who for the longest time was used as a reference for like the ideal male warrior grave, and then it came out she was a woman, and then everybody's like, oh well, maybe she's not a warrior, and I was like, okay, well, you didn't question it beforehand when you didn't realize it was a chick, but now because it's a girl, you're suddenly like worried or something. Who knows? But yeah, so it came out that she was this warrior woman, and that's awesome. It's just that like it's kind of largely seen as an exception to the rule, not proof of it.
Yeah.
Basically, there's no question that women would fight and women could take on these traits and pretty much cross-dress essentially and act as men. We kind of know that a little bit, factually. It's just it was not common by any means, is all.
Yeah, it could very well happen that, you could have a woman that didn't care about marriage or kids or, tending the farm or taking care of a homestead and she wanted to fight. There absolutely were those cases, but as you said, they were kind of the exception to the rule, because otherwise, if they sent all their women into battle and they died, the village is dead, basically.
But like in the same logical strain, you know, you want your women to know how to defend themselves and things like that. Even like to the modern age, you know, you want everybody to know how to defend themselves in case anything were to happen. Because ideally, if you have your men going out raiding and there's not a lot of people left to defend your own village, your own community from other raiders, what's going to stop them from coming in and f***ing up your shit, you know? So you'd want the people who are still staying behind, maybe not to go out and like be put in the front line of that and like risk their lives, but you still want them to be able to defend themselves. So it makes logical sense that even if women aren't going to be Vikings and aren't going to be warriors necessarily, they still need to know how to fight and how to defend themselves and defend like their home and things like that. I mean, to kind of go off, it's not quite Vikings, more Saxon, but still same, like kind of cousins in terms of like religion and culture and things like that in the same time period. But there was this one village in, I'm pretty sure Saxony, where the men, exactly the situation happened. The men went out raiding, and while they were out raiding, another group of raiders came in and invaded the village. And the women, instead of putting up this like defense basically and like trying to fend them off and fight their way out of it, they welcomed them in and hosted a feast. And like, we're like, okay, we know we're all gonna die, so like let's not play this game, we'll just make a feast and it'll be a good time. And the guys were like, oh yeah, let's do this, yeah, easy. And then while they were drinking, the women got them really drunk and then went over and cut all their throats.
That's the way women fight.
Yeah. And that's a great way to fight, I will say that.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories of a female warrior is the story of Freydis. So that's actually part of the saga of the Greenlanders when they were in Vinland, which is modern day Canada, we think, or northern U.S.
Yep.
Somewhere along the coast.
Canada.
Most likely Canada, yeah.
Canada.
The Viking settlers that were in Vinland got into an altercation with the Native Americans. Mm-hmm. And basically what happened is they were losing. And the Native Americans were chasing them up a hill through the forest. And the warriors, were fleeing for their lives. And Freydis, Erik's dotir, who was with them, she was pregnant at the time, actually with a child, was at first fleeing along with the Vikings, but then she got really angry and basically went, why are we running? We are Vikings. All of you men are pansies. I will take care of this myself. So she proceeded to pick up this fallen warrior's sword that was at her feet, and she took out one of her breasts and started beating herself over the chest with the sword while facing the Native Americans that were running at her. And she began to just scream at them in this like primal scream. And that was enough for the Native Americans to just stop and be mortified of this and flee the other way.
Same. Yeah.
So, while we're talking about women not specifically being warriors in a Viking age, they were still to be contended with.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because they weren't necessarily professional Vikings or professional warriors specifically didn't mean that they didn't hold that same mentality. It didn't mean that they didn't fight. It didn't mean that they couldn't fight. It didn't mean that they were helpless by any means. Mm-hmm. These were brutal women. It's kind of like, I always kind of see it as like the same light as how the Spartans kind of viewed things. There was an old saying in ancient Sparta where only Spartan women could breed Spartan men. But yeah, it's like the same mentality, they're still Viking, they're still Norse, they still have that same mentality and belief system and everything like the men would do. The only difference is they don't have, which in some ways is way better. So you wouldn't see like professional armies. It makes no sense to have your women lined up and fill longships with all of your women folk to throw them into battle, because that's just asking for so many more problems. But like, hey,
here we are.
Female power, I'm not gonna complain too much. I'm just going to steer people in the right direction.
Nowadays we can because we have an abundance of people.
There's an abundance of people, and there's an abundance of equal rights. And nobody in their right mind would ever question that.
Exactly. We got this, ladies.
You got this, ladies.
Listen, you and I both know the outcome of this battle has already been decided, but not by men. And the other one to spin off things.
Just something real quick, we don't have to go into deep detail over it, but something she actually just brought up that we talked about last week when we were watching Doctor Who is the fact that it was a belief for the Vikings that battles were decided before they were started. The fate of a man or a woman in this case was woven and decided before the battle even took place. So they could go and do whatever they need to do, knowing that if they were fated to die, they will, and if they were not, then they're not going to.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, you guys can watch the video from last week where we watched Doctor Who and talked about it. You're gonna do the... Yep. That thing. The Vikings believed in fate. They believed that you were fated to die from the second you were born. So as soon as you were born, as a young little babe, as a pup, as it were, as a wee lad, or a bonny lass, if you will, the Norns decided when you're going to die. That moment was set in stone, basically, and there was nothing you could do to avoid that. And as such, many things in life were predetermined, and there's no way to kind of get around it. So going into battle, you can just hope that it's in your fate that you're going to live.
Right.
And if it's not, then you hope you'll die well.
Yeah.
Long story short.
Yeah. So it's nice to hear her bring that up as sort of like a small aside, but there is deeper meaning behind that.
Yes.
It's the little things.
Little things.
It's the little things.
Little things matter. He was the one who was like chit-chatting with him, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh boy.
Cast my vote for King Harold.
He's pissed.
He should be. He said he wanted a fair election.
Fate is not in his favor. AKA history.
Right? What is he wearing? Leather scam. Are you kidding me?
Come on then, attack us. We are not afraid. You have made it.
And we have horns.
You...
Why do we have horns? Okay. I can forgive Doctor Who for horns. I can forgive their aesthetic. This, guys, this is on the History Channel.
You're on the History Channel, people.
And I understand that the History Channel has not been very historical for many years now. But why do we have horns, Michael? Why? Why do we have horns?
I'm disappointed in you, Michael.
I'm just baffled. I want to grab it and just yank it. They were better off keeping helmets off of people.
Yeah. If this is what you're going to do, yeah.
Vikings didn't have horn helmets.
Vikings didn't have horn helmets!
Listen to the angry Viking.
Big mistake. I have fought with men whose names you should never be allowed to utter.
Oh,
It's
it's
not
the
even-
leader.
It's not even like a... It's like a leather helmet or something. It's not even metal. What is that?
I would prefer Doctor Who at this point.
I think Doctor Who is more accurate.
Yeah.
King Harold! Hail King Harold! King of Norway!
Okay, well at least I got that right.
Is this like the Viking Hall of Mirrors thing?
I think so. Oh, there's doors. I do have to say, that is pretty ingenious. Lagatha, please kill him, like, now.
Harald, Finehair, you have been chosen to be the first king of all Norway. Drink from the sacrificial cup.
That's something, at least.
Still so mad. Like that. Not every day you get to stab a dude with a shield.
Yep.
Yep.
That was kind of intense.
Gnarly. She cut off one of her wrinkles.
Whoa, whiplash.
You can arrange to send new settlers to Iceland. Want the big king.
Iceland was like a province of Norway, which is why a lot of the times you'll see there's a lot of parts in the sagas where Icelanders who are seeking renown and seeking fame and things like that will often journey to Norway, and they'll spend time with the Norwegian king. Iceland was a province of Norway. It was largely settled by Norwegians who were actually kind of fleeing Harald Finehair's rulership. Once he united Norway, they kind of started to see the kingdom that was forming. It kind of became more reminiscent of the powers that they knew about in Europe, which were very Christianized. And a lot of the early Icelander settlers kind of saw that as them starting to lose their own history and their own kind of path, basically. Kind of similar to how the colonists settled America to kind of escape religious persecution, essentially. They were fearful that their kingdom, or their homeland, was going to turn into an extension of a European power. Mm-hmm. So they fled to Iceland and established their own community there so that they could basically rule or continue to rule as they were familiar with, as their ancestors did, basically. Mm-hmm. To try to hold on to that traditional life, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It later on became a province of Norway, but there was never any kind of like king of Iceland or anything like that.
She's
still walking around.
I'm going back to Kattegat.
I love seeing the ships
Oh, you're my life
and the
stranger.
fjords.
Yeah.
What is your name?
Erik.
Just Erik.
Yes. I'm too young to remember Ragnar. I did what I did for Björn Ironside. As a youth, I was intemperate, hot-headed, got involved in a feud over the death of some slaves. Killed two of my neighbors in the fight. For that, I was banished from my homeland.
How do you survive?
Move around a lot.
For what it is worth, I offer you my protection.
That is very kind of you. But I noticed that you lost the election.
So
That's Erik the Red.
that's Erik the Red.
Which kind of explains the reddish hair that he has over here.
Yeah, right. That was largely his story. Erik the Red was from Norway. He got into a dispute because on his property lines, some of his neighbor's thralls had been doing some work and caused an avalanche, or like a rock slide basically onto his property that killed some of his own thralls. He got ripped and killed them. And that was seen as a destruction of property at the time. You can't go around and kill somebody else's slaves. It's not how it works. So he was outlawed from Norway and went to Iceland. And then the exact same thing happened in Iceland. He got into a dispute and killed some of his neighbor's thralls, and then they exiled him from Iceland. So, yeah, pretty
He
great.
went to Greenland.
So then he went to Greenland, and then he became King of Greenland. Yeah, he became Jarl of Greenland, actually, and he named it Greenland because it was a horrible place to live, and he wanted to entice people to come live there so he could rule over them.
And they needed a bigger population.
Yeah, I mean, it was a horrible place. Like, there's no, like, native trees, so they had to import everything from Iceland. When there were still trees in Iceland, pretty much. Because the Vikings were a huge cause of deforestation in Iceland. So they had to import, like, all their lumber. It got to be, like, -40 in, like, Celsius in the winter, which is disgusting. They had to rely on, like, hunting whales and a bunch of stuff to, like, live. It was rough to live in Iceland. Or it was rough to live in Greenland. And he wanted more people to come and move there with him so that it wouldn't just be a lost cause and he wouldn't be like alone, abandoned on some giant slab of freezing rock. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where it's going. This is making a great little spin-off sequel series for the Netflix show.
This is true. Fun fact about Erik, he is actually the father of Freydis from the story that we were just telling a little bit ago, and the father of Leif Erikson, who is the one that founded Vinland and came to America.
Yep. Family of explorers.
So we're getting closer.
By interest and necessity. Leif the Lucky wanted to explore and like take after his father, so he like went out on his own to discover new lands. Erik had to, or else he'd be murdered.
Also, quick question: if he's too young to remember Ragnar, how old is
Bjorn?
How old is Bjorn right now, and why does he look like his son?
It is what is foretold. That one day I will be killed by a son of Ragnar. Tonight I'll sit with my beloved Ragnar in the halls of the gods. I lived a full life.
She didn't say the halls of Valhalla.
Oh, good. You thought that she was going to.
Okay, listen, I know everybody's upset, Lagertha died, everybody was like screaming when it happened. She's like 130. Let it happen.
That's sad.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's not sad. Obviously, it's sad.
After everything that she's been through, after all of the fights that she's been in, like her whole life, she's killed by, a crazy on mushrooms.
No. She's killed by her crazy stepson who's going through withdrawals from mushrooms.
That doesn't make it much better.
I didn't say it was going to make it better. I was just clarifying.
Two big takeaways from this episode. Horn helmets did not exist. That was a very, very big thing about this episode. And Harold is king.
Yep.
Those are the two big
That's
things.
pretty much all that happened.
Aside from, the little details, I guess. But honestly, those were the two big things for me this episode. One was good, one was awful. We talked, I feel like we talked enough last time about how Harold actually became king of Norway.
Yep.
Not by a popular vote. but
Nope.
by actually taking the throne.
Not at all.
But yeah, no, he became king of Norway.
There's at least that takeaway.
Yeah, they can't mess with that at least.
Yep, and they peppered that in right in the midst of showing me a horn helmet.
Looking forward to seeing Erik the Red's character some more.
Yep.
That was a fun little introduction. He's just gonna be pissed off for the rest of the night now. Dare I ask for a rating?
0. What did I rate it when it was when they were hot air balloons? Because it's right back down there.
That was a 2.
It was a 2?
Yeah.
I must have been drunk. Whatever, fine. I'll give it a 2.
I'm giving this a 2. I'm just glad that they stuck with Harold. And they didn't mess with that timeline. Well, they did, but the big part is there. Like,
Yep.
the core thing is there. Ivar's story in this seems kind of like a throwaway almost. Like he's just kind of off on the sidelines.
Well, what, he
being
was in it for
batted
like
around.
he was in for like 5 minutes in this entire episode.
Yeah.
He was there for the 2 scenes.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe like the next episode or the episode after that, he's going to be more of a key player. Probably they're going to head to Kattegat pretty soon because that's got to happen. But yeah, he's just kind of been on the sidelines. He hasn't really done much this entire season.
Nope.
And yeah, we have to say bye to Lagatha. But she will be in the halls of the kings of the gods.
Of Valhalla.
Like, you broke up, you're like, no.
Yeah, I was so delighted, but there's at least that takeaway.
She did well by herself. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you can be notified of our future videos. And we'll see you in the next one.
Vikings didn't have horn helmets. I'm right back down to where it was at the very beginning with a horrible, I can barely say it, a horrible